So let's hear from Mikel Arteta ahead of the game, and our very own James Ollie will wrap up afterwards what Mikel Arteta said.
What I can tell you is that the boys are going to be fully ready on Sunday to go to play against a great opponent that is going to make things very difficult for us, and are going to have to be very good to beat them. I love the fact that we played 4 times and then we had some great experience, a very demanding week. We managed to have some really good results in the last 2, and obviously that boosted the confidence and the belief of everybody, and we're in a good place. It's good headaches though. Yeah, you feel for the players because as well I see how much they want it and how much everyone wants to start and contribute to a team and impact the team in the right way. So it is always difficult. It's part of the job, but as well they're fully ready to come on the pitch in whenever time that we need them to try to help us to win matches. And the spirit is so good. I hope so, but that's something that you have to show every season, every game, and in this league that's extremely difficult to do it 2 years in a row. We're not satisfied with that. We want to win it, and we're going to make everything that we can to win it. And if we do win it, we will try again to win it, and if we don't, for sure we'll try again.
Well, Mikel Arteta sat here at London Colney to preview the North London derby between Tottenham and Arsenal. Massive game, always one of high emotions, but Arteta's somebody who tends to play down these big occasions. He doesn't like to give a lot away or try and inflame the tensions with a potentially volatile opposition. So he kind of played a lot of that down. He instructed his players to put the rivalry to one side and focus on the win that they need to stay in the Premier League title race. Of course, the league is out of their hands, and that's really taken place over the last 15 days or so, which is the time in which Spurs have not had a game. And it feels as though they might have an advantage in one sense because their players will be well rested. But of course, they've not got the rhythm that Arsenal have got from playing 4 games in that time. However, it's been quite a tumultuous period for Arsenal. They lost at home to Aston Villa. They then went to Germany and were knocked out in the quarter-final stage of the Champions League by Bayern Munich. But 2 good wins back-to-back against Wolves and Chelsea have set them up for what will be a massive game on Sunday, no matter how much Arteta tries to play it down. They're going to need to manage their emotions and also execute their game plan perfectly if they're going to get the win they need to stay on track.
Good stuff there from James, talking about Mikel Arteta. Dallin, Arsenal have played 4 times since Spurs last played that 4-0 defeat at Newcastle. Are you preferring the fresh team, or are you preferring the team that's match ready and just played a few days ago?
Well, I think I prefer the form that Arsenal's in right now, without a doubt. Now, those 5 days, as James alluded to there, when you lose to Villa, congratulations, LME, on your team. And I sent that. I will let everybody know. I did send him a congratulatory thing on Instagram because we had a great time there, and that was as painful as it was for me. I was like, that dude's having the time of his life. Don't roll your eyes, Mark. It's okay.
I made the record show, Mark Donaldson. I didn't bring it up. All right.
It was from my side. I think I was also just really, really drunk at that point. And then you have the game a couple days later, Bayern, which was a hope of, okay, can we go on the road and get a result, maybe get into penalties, maybe win an overtime, extra time, whatever it may be. Can you find a way to get it done? And they didn't do that. That was a heartbreaking 5 days. But to bounce back and to play the way they played, Wolves' game was a professional performance. This midweek against Chelsea was everything's going your way. You're high flying. You destroy one of your London rivals. That's the kind of mode and mojo you want to have coming into the North London derby. The problem with that is on the other side, though, Spurs having 2 weeks off, they need it. They're beat up. Udogie, we'll talk about him. His absence is critical, but you may get Richarlison back. Last time they played, they got embarrassed by Newcastle 4-0. 2 weeks to think about that. You're playing at home in your building against your rival where you can literally end their chance to win a championship. Everything is on their side and all the pressure is on Arsenal. So I prefer the form. But when you look at the kind of the narrative of what's going on around Tottenham's club the last 2 weeks, or lack thereof, those guys are coming in literally the whole this season could be ending right there. They could end Arsenal season, but again, obviously they're still in the Champions League race too. So they have everything to play for, and I feel like zero pressure. So when you look at that balance of it, I might rather be the Spurs, but the form of Arsenal is formidable.
LME, I was looking at the game earlier this season, the 2-2 draw at the Emirates. Then going back to last season, Arsenal won at the London Stadium, White Hart Lane, Spurs Stadium, whatever you want to call it these days. Certainly not the London Stadium. Arsenal winning before that. So you have to go back to May 2022 when Spurs beat Arsenal by 3-0. When you look at what Everton did to Liverpool, Liverpool's the better side, but hard work can beat ability if ability doesn't work hard. Copyright my third-grade teacher back in the day. They've got to look at that and go, you know what, as Dallin was saying, this is an opportunity now to not maybe put an end to Arsenal's title hopes, but to severely dent it. And you saw the joy that the Everton fans got from Liverpool's defeat at Goodison this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, when we talk about a derby, as Dallin was talking about, and you rightly questioned it, this is about form, momentum, versus the mentality of what happens in a very high-stakes, emotional, possibly tumultuous, rivalry against your bitter opponents. And like you said, the Merseyside derby proved to be that case. There are a few factors, I think, in this game that we have to remember. Number one, just echoing what Dallin said regarding that break, that 2-week break that Tottenham has had, leading up to it. Before that, it was that loss against Newcastle. I will add, by the way, that since Tottenham got that really good victory against Aston Villa on March 10th, they actually haven't impressed me at all. They haven't been that good, despite the fact getting some victories. One against Luton and then the draw against West Ham. It really hasn't been that impressive. So I think these 2 weeks, Postecoglou has needed to use this to reflect, to press the restart button. But in a Postecoglou system, sometimes when you take that much of a breather, it can be a detriment, because what you're gaining in energy and fitness and reflection on tactics, you're probably losing a little bit when it comes to what you do with the ball. And that's probably Tottenham's biggest weakness. Now comes Arsenal, a side that has picked itself up after wins against Wolves, a fantastic win against Chelsea, and now looking ahead to this, there's a right justification why Mikel Arteta doesn't want to, big things up here, because he knows what the job is at hand. Tottenham have had a long time to really focus and take this into consideration. And aside from the fact that obviously this is Arsenal and they're at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they're still hunting, right? It's not easy, but they're still hunting for the Champions League spot, and this is a must-win for them for that. They have to win this. I think they have to win this. If they don't win this, because guess what? They have Chelsea coming up in a few days, and they still have to play Manchester City and Liverpool. So from just a purely narrative perspective, I think this is a must-win for Tottenham. I think a draw is not completely detrimental, but it doesn't really help them as much as a victory. And I think it's going to be very important for everybody to remember that Postecoglou is not just here to be a party crasher. He wants to make sure that Tottenham keep going. But as Dallin mentioned, we have to talk about the depth of their squad, because they're missing a player that's very, very important for this one.
Yeah, let's do that now. So no Udogie. So Ben Davies is probably going to come in. He doesn't play the role the same way as Udogie does, although Ange Postecoglou likes his fullbacks to get forward. So you may see Pedro Porro given more of a license. The big question is, Dallin, we've seen this season, Richarlison started the season up front, Son wide left, then he got hurt, Son went through the middle, Richarlison's been through the middle. This will be like the third time if he starts. Would you start Richarlison through the middle instead of Son and have him at left midfield, or what would you do?
The challenge for me is obviously for any of us, we haven't seen training. Like what are we taking from Richarlison? What can he give you and for how long can he give you it? And if you're going to have to adapt in the second half, what does that shape change look like, or how are you going to alter things based on some other key pieces missing? So I would wonder how he's health-wise. If he's good to go, if you can believe he can give you 75 minutes, I'm probably starting through the middle, play Sonny out on the left side. I do think that you're going to have some challenges around that defensively, though. This is the problem. Udogie's been one of the best left backs in the league so far this year, and missing him is huge. And we know how big Saka is, but obviously with the overlap of Ben White on the right side, a lot of Arsenal's attacking options have come down the right. Trossard's been very good as of late, and Martinelli, when he was in his pomp, has been very good at times too on that left side, and then generating some things, especially when Zinchenko can play and get in the midfield and give them a more balanced attack. But if they're going to play primarily through the right side and look for offensive opportunities there, I do think they have the advantage in that regard. So especially just the way that Spurs play, and we'll get to some of the odds and whatnot, but the over-under in terms of 2.5 goals, which is kind of your standard mark, is minus 230. Like that is a monster number in terms of like people, all the bookmakers think we're looking at least 3 goals, and if not more. 3.5 is plus 115, which is closer to even money. I think they're looking at the fact that both these teams want to play in the front foot, both of them play aggressively. I don't think Tottenham has gone 5 straight home games without a clean sheet, I believe. And we think there's going to be goals, and I think there's going to be an ability to expose things here. But I do think the key part of this game really is Arsenal and their defensive capabilities. Like they have been outstanding defensively all year, and I think we always talk about their young attacking players, but defensively, their ability to control the game, to at times absorb some pressure in some of their bigger games, whether it's Liverpool or City, particularly City in both matches, and particularly on the road, to be able to manage that process is huge. And the last thing I will say is David Raya and how he starts the game. We've seen him times in some of these big matches start a little shaky. And I do go back to City. Early Liverpool looked a little tight. Like how they start at the back and how comfortable he is playing out of the back and not making mistakes will be critical, because I do think the defensive capabilities of Arsenal are where these teams are truly separated.
Yeah, I want to get some value odds from you in just a second. But LME, I know you think that you'd have Son through the middle, but I want to ask you, who's your Arsenal front three? Because we saw in the double game week, Havertz played deeper, then Havertz played as the false nine. So what are you doing as your front three for Arsenal at Spurs on Sunday?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the thing is, when you put Kai Havertz a little bit deeper, especially against the Tottenham team who likes to chase, who likes to press, it can be a good thing if Havertz is feeling it in possession, or it can be a good thing if you put him higher up and he relies on that counter. I think obviously you put Bukayo Saka on one side, and this might just be the game for Leandro Trossard to start. Just because of that energy and the capability to go at players, specifically because even if Pedro Porro starts, he's just coming back from an injury. We know Destiny Udogie is not going. So there's going to be a lot of spaces from either side, right? So I would put Leandro Trossard in there as well with Gabriel Jesus. I think that would be my lineup. And then Kai Havertz, if he can be a little bit deeper, once again, replicate the things that he has done recently, then that would be, my answer to that. I think, listen, I just want to go back to something that you said, because you mentioned the September game. That was a wonderful, entertaining game for the neutral.
Yeah.
Bukayo Saka got a brace. Heung-min Son got a brace as well. It was a wonderful back and forth. And the reason why I bring it up is because why I think Heung-min Son should start through the middle. Because now, before in that game, they didn't have Timo Werner. And what I would do is I would put Heung-min Son in the center with James Maddison just behind him, and then Brennan Johnson with Timo Werner and James Maddison all protecting Heung-min Son, because I think this is the kind of game where Heung-min Son is going to have to be more than just one position, if you get my drift. And Richarlison, because he's just coming back from injury, I think it's a little bit risky to just, all right, son, there you go, get in there and try and push it against the currently leader of the Premier League. So I would put Heung-min Son in that center position, just because that's exactly what he did in September. And if Tottenham can be a little bit better from a controlling perspective, the moment you lose the ball, right, then it can be easier. But my God, there hasn't been, by the way, a clean sheet, a stalemate in this game since 2009. So you can almost guarantee there's going to be goals here.
Yeah, real quick, Mark, let me just, I want everybody to just understand how I watched that game in September. I was in a Vegas hotel room with my brother, who's a Spurs fan. We watched that thing together, 6 a.m. local time, off of Vegas night. Your boys were committed, and now I sound like a complete drunk. Not sober at that time, of the night, time of the morning.
You hadn't been to bed. You had not been to bed.
We slept for about 3 hours. It was about a 3-hour nap. We took a quick nap.
To sleep.
Well, we were on East Coast time. We turned in a good effort. That was a solid performance by us, and then we got up and watched the game, and that got ugly quickly.
Well, to be fair, you did message at the time, and you said it was plus 500 that you make your flight on the way back, as far as the odds were concerned. Speaking of value, there is no value in betting the over 2.5, because the bookies think there's going to be loads. What does ESPN bet give us as far as value, and what do you think is value here, Dallin?
Well, in all honesty, I think you're looking at, like I said, if you want to zag, and I may do this, the under 2.5 goals, because the number in that's going to be pretty hefty in terms of if this game is not the way everybody thinks. And bear in mind, sometimes with these huge games, but LME is right. This game in particular, North London Derby, does tend to deliver. That's why neutrals love this game. Got to think about that. The biggest value for me, as a Spurs double, win or draw, and you get even money. Again, and this is trying to maybe protect myself a little bit as a fan. When you're playing at home in these derby matches, we've already noted, we just saw it this week already in the Merseyside derby with a team at Everton that, yes, they're trying to they're in the relegation battle, but it's more than that. It's the chance to spoil your team's opportunity. Spurs still playing for so much. They've gone through the tactics of it. That's where I think the most value is if they get a result here at even money, and maybe the draw at plus 310. I think Arsenal can win the game. I struggle to just put my money there and not hedge it at all as a fan. Let's call it emotional hedge, guys. We know where my heart lies, but can we make a little money? Beyond nervous. Guys, we looked at this in March and January, brother. I'm like, Spurs is going to determine so many things within this season. We knew this game for Arsenal, and you already mentioned Liverpool, City, and us all playing in that like final stretch. Like Spurs is like holding the keys to how this thing's going to end. Is kind of wild.
It sure is. Now, the plus 310 is certainly appealing. What about as far as the title race is concerned? Plus 310 for the draw is appealing. This is what we have. We have a slightly different scenario for the top four now because the English teams have been rubbish in Europe over the past month, and that's if they've been
Excuse me.
So hold on, except Villa, you boys can't get the coefficient all by yourself, and as a result, the fact that none of the other English teams have gone through means it's probably only going to be fourth that gets into the Champions League next year and not fifth. Okay, LME, any value here? There's no value in Villa. Spurs might be the value. Man United's a dart throw. Arsenal the value for the title, or Man City, if they win out, they're going to win it. Let's break this down, LME. Where's the value here?
The value's in Arsenal winning the league. I know that Dallin doesn't want to hear that right now. He's trying to hold on to any kind of superstition, but I think that's a good value right there, reminding of what's happening because Arsenal, yes, they, just like James Holley reminded us at the beginning of this segment, there is no control from Arsenal's perspective because of that loss to Villa at the Emirates, right? But with a plus 225 and the fact that Man City, by the way, still have to play a few key games, including Tottenham as well, as Alan was mentioning, they play the narrative a lot for the remainder of the season. I think that's a good one. From the top four perspective, I think minus 350, there is no value in Villa on getting that. They're looking good for it under Unai Emery. But again, because Tottenham controls so much of this storyline, and this North London derby might just be the most high-stakes North London derby in the last decade, I think this is a good one as well to bet. But I would actually go more for the Arsenal plus 225 for the title. Man City control it, but only just. And by the way, goal differential could be key here. And that win against Chelsea, from Arsenal's perspective, was massive. That's why Man City needed to respond against Brighton. This is such a tremendously exciting title race for the neutral. Obviously, Dallin's, eating all his fingernails, but this is a really entertaining one. And I like the Arsenal plus 225.
Yeah, just one final thing for Dallin before he goes. This is slightly unusual because, first of all, plus 225 is 9-4. That's the way when I was growing. And it's taken me a little bit of time to get to this plus 225. But you would think, what about an Arsenal Spurs double plus 225 plus 250?
Yeah.
But then you think no. Then you think they're playing each other. So that is not the way to go, is it?
No, that is not it. I will say this, that there's interesting, because before that Brighton game, City was minus 140. And I think I held out a little bit more hope. I was like, okay, what can Brighton show? You wish kind of Brighton was closer to the European places. Maybe they would have competed a little bit harder, or maybe change some tactics there. We don't need to get into that game too much. I thought they had a chance to compete a little bit better, but it was minus 140. As soon as they won the game, it was less about the 4-0 scoreline. Winning that game put them kind of in this pole position where, when you look at their opponents ahead, very few are playing for much left. When you look at where some of those teams are, 10, 11, 12 in the table, outside of Spurs. So you're really kind of hanging your hat on Spurs and the fact that a lot of these games for City are away from home. I would have loved, this is sacrilegious to say, for them to beat Madrid and stay in the Champions League. We want to keep pushing and testing that team, and having their divided attention, I think, may have actually benefited Arsenal in the long run. But overall, that change in numbers shows you just how big a favorite City is. And it's hard for me to argue that because they control their own opportunity. If Arsenal controlled their opportunity, LME, I'd be right there. I believe that they could get it done. I still believe they can win every game left. But because of what happened at Villa Park, that has changed the equation here, and that's where we sit right now. Last thing I will say, before the season, Arsenal, to finish top 2, played plus 165. So your boy has a ticket for that. So I'm winning either way because Liverpool fell apart. So I feel pretty good there.
North London Derby is on Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 a.m. Vegas. A little more for Alan in this time.